I'm Matt Harnacke, and I'm an international model and a content creator. I live in the Netherlands now at our property. It's a huge project that we've undertaken, and we're doing a full renovation of the house itself, of the barn, kind of creating our own horse paradise here, which I'm very excited about. I am going slightly grey from it, but as long as it's not bald, that's the main thing. Um, and yeah, I have a passion for PRE horses specifically. That's like what I love. And it's something that developed over time. I was living in Australia and I had an Australian warm blood that I flew here when I moved. And then as kind of my horse story progressed, I just fell in love with the breed completely. The passion, the history, the way they look, the way they move, kind of everything about them. And then I decided to buy my first one, which was my horse called Emporio. Sadly, he's no longer here with us, but I had an incredible journey with him for 7 years. And I'm so thankful for him because he taught me so much about what I want out of horses in terms of the partnership, the feeling, what it means to me when I ride my horses as well. And it's difficult because his loss has left a really big hole, but it's made me understand what I want out of it next, moving forward with all of my horses. Like if I can have even a partnership that's like 50% of that, then it's a success. I think I heard about Tristan and the TRT method like when I was still in Australia, like several years ago, maybe like 10 years ago. Of course, Tristan at the time was doing the whole Brett kidding thing, which was very funny and it caught my eye. And then, of course, then the conversation kind of naturally transitioned to, well, what else is this guy doing? Because I knew that he was doing a lot of groundwork and he had a very specific way of working with the horses. And that intrigued me. So I did a little bit of digging, but he wasn't in Australia anymore. So it was only until I came to the Netherlands that I had my first like real life experience. I think I was at the Rotterdam show, like Kio, Rotterdam. And Tristan sent me a DM. And he was like, oh, hey, mate, if you're here, it would be nice to grab a beer with ya. Something like that. And I don't know if we did meet up at that show or not. I think I did see him fleeing. It was very quick. And then later on, I had reached out to him and I said, hey, I've got this horse. I'd love to do a video with you to show on my YouTube. And that's when I went to his stables with my horse at Tro. And that's like my first proper interaction with him, and also getting firsthand, like seeing how he works, working with one of my horses. And it was very, very eye-opening, definitely. And that always stayed in the back of my mind. And when I had trouble with my black stallion that I bought, 3-year-old, very beautiful, very spicy black stallion, I instinctively thought, it wasn't even for a video, I just texted Tristan, I still had his contact, and I said, hey, listen, I've got this horse, he's got a lot of character, he's very sweet, but he's, very assertive. Can I come to you and we can kind of troubleshoot together? And he, of course, was very nice. And he's like, yeah, bring him over, we'll figure it out. And so we did. But yeah, it first started, I would say, about 10 years ago that I kind of understood. And I saw him online, of course, and I saw the academy and what he was doing. And there was a lot of crossover because we both kind of inhabit the social media space as well. But yeah. That's when I first kind of started hearing about everything he was doing. I think what really appealed to me about what Tristan does is firstly like the nature he has with the horses. I think it's something I aspire to as well, that he's very grounded and calm, and it's about fixing what's there. It's not about just getting your point across and making a horse do something. And it's also about tackling it to the core. I remember when I had reached out to him for my original video, I had said to him, oh, we're looking to do something about like desensitizing horses. And now that I know Tristan, that's like the opposite of what he does. It's not about making a horse numb to what you're asking it. It's about making it confident and relaxed and making it understand the questions you're asking. And so he corrected me at the time, because then we called and we were like strategizing a little bit. Okay, how's the video going to be? And he was like, okay, well, we're not desensitizing, but we are going to teach. And so I think that was like that's something that stayed with me about like his philosophy and his mentality towards things. And it's definitely something that I saw when I've had my lessons with him as well. I think for a long time, groundwork was something that I didn't really think about that much. And I think it's due to the fact that I, at the time, was having horses that were older And in my head, groundwork was always like, oh yeah, it's for like a very young horse, like when it's learning, like before they're being backed, then you do the groundwork. And then kind of throughout my journey, and especially after meeting Jesse, yes, there's a lot of groundwork with the trick training and that kind of stuff. And I had a phase where my horse Chase, he had surgery, so he couldn't do much and he was on box rest. But he's a very playful horse that gets very bored, and he was in the stable for 3 months. And I was like, I have to do something with this horse or he's going to go crazy. He's going to go nuts. And so I started to do, I guess, what you could call a form of groundwork. And that was teaching him a couple of tricks in the stables to keep his mind active. And he really loved it. And it started very small, like teaching him to smile or give me a kiss. And then once he could do more movements and I could take him to the lunge yard, it was like a little bit of the Spanish walk. And then as he progressed, it was like the rearing and then like passage and then neck rope. And then it kind of like developed and it was this really beautiful kind of winding road. And I really saw what a huge difference it made in the handling of my horses every day, but also in the riding. It was just a completely different feeling. There was all of a sudden this connection, and so much of what I was doing on the ground then directly correlated to the riding. So I think I give groundwork a lot more importance. I think I'm still very much on my journey of learning more. Like I'm not there. And it's something that, but I'm trying to be more conscious of it. I think sometimes when you're a dressage rider and especially when you start to train higher level, you really make it technical, and it's really about the riding, the reaction, how like the dynamic of the horse, how they're using their body and all these kind of things. But sometimes like peeling it back and really simplifying and taking a look from the ground, and then being able to maybe navigate the blocked points or the difficult points from a completely different perspective helps. And I think it depends, because every horse also kind of challenges you in a different way, and they're asking something different of the partnership. And when you're riding and when you're doing so many things, it can be difficult to understand that. So actually having that perspective of taking a second and doing the groundwork and kind of breaking it up can be really helpful. There's of course so many hours spent training and very little spent in a dressage ring at a competition. I mean, you get 6 minutes. And I think what I've learned that I truly value is, what do all those hours look like, behind the scenes? Am I having a good time? Am I comfortable with the questions I'm asking my horses? Do I look myself in the mirror and I see someone who's setting a good example for the horse sport and the horse world? And that's where I see Tristan really paving the way, because it's not all smokes and mirrors. Like how he trains at home is really how he is online. And of course, that's something that I've had the privilege of seeing because I've worked with him firsthand. But I saw someone that was honest and someone that was true. It wasn't about getting a quick fix to kind of like have your ego portrayed a certain way. It was really truthful. And that's what I appreciated. I think when you live in your own bubble with your own horses, you think I'm the only one having issues. Like, look at everyone else. Everyone's doing so good. Everyone's like thriving, going to competitions. Their training at home is just laughs and butterflies. But that's really not how it is. And I think it's the more you talk to people, even like top riders, every person has like their good days and their bad days. It's not like a straight line to success. There's ups and downs. There's ebbs and flows, whether it's most of the time I think it's the rider making the mistake or asking the wrong questions, or whether your horse just not feeling it or missing the inspiration, maybe missing the connection with the rider. So I think it's a very valid thing to feel, and it's very real for a lot of people. And I think it's just about finding the right avenue. And I really think TRT is that. I really think that the training mentality, what Tristan stands for, how he's able to help different horses, like the proof is there. It does work. So I think sometimes it's also easy to be a little bit lazy and think, well, I'll just ask the same question tomorrow and hope for the best. Like people just put their foot in and it's like, yeah, but my horse is different. My horse is very difficult. He's super sensitive. And I think that's part of like someone's ego trying to stop the success because they can't admit that they can't fix it or that they don't have the tools. And I think a lot of the time, I mean, we know in the horse world, there's a lot of things going on that aren't right. And I think it's a lot of times people that, like when you run out of resources and options is when the pressure gets more. When you have to then say, okay, then I have to overpower the situation. I have to be bigger. And I think that's where the issues really start to begin. But if we can kind of stop that process and people can reflect and say, actually, I'm missing the tools. TRT can give me the tools. Tristan can give me the tools. then you also don't cross the boundary of where you don't feel comfortable going, because a lot of it, and that's the human experience, is making mistakes. And there isn't, it's not a problem to make mistakes with horses. I think that's how we learn, that's how horses learn. But making the same mistake over and over and over, knowing that it's not going to lead you to success, I think means you need to start to look elsewhere as well. I think if the majority of the community in the world was doing TRT, we would be seeing a very different conversation. Like right now, the conversation is very negative. Every week there's another video of another rider crossing their own boundaries, making the community upset, representing the sport badly. But if everybody was able to take a step back and put a little bit of the work in, and also just assess with themselves, because so much of the TRT is also like a reflection of ourselves in the training, and Tristan's very good about like pointing this out. And then he says also, are you like, I saw it in one of his series, he was like, are you like the dictator or are you like the mother? And it's like, if we can understand our role in a horse's life and also what that means to the horse, and if we can understand the impacts of our actions and how just very simple changes can lead us to a road to success, I think the horse world overall would be in a much more positive state, without a doubt, without a doubt. I think sometimes a misconception can be, and I think it's something that I felt for a long time as well, that it's a bit like airy-fairy. It's a little bit like crystals and energies and all this kind of stuff. It's a bit like up in the air. But of course, TRT is really founded in evidence and results and case studies and years of experience. It's not something that, sometimes there's quite a few trainers in the horse world that say, they say a lot of stuff, but they don't do it. Like, they'll like, I always say, for instance, like I would never be trained by a trainer that hasn't ridden at that level that I'm riding at, because I feel like they need that first-hand experience. That's just my opinion, but I feel like they need to have done it. And I think that's what's so reassuring about TRT and Tristan, is that there's so many different cases where you can clearly see this truly has helped the horse and the rider and the partnership and the connection. Also through like his academy, you can really see there's development. And he's kind of created his own, let's call it, training scale. But you can see that if you do step 1 and then you go into step 2, the horse is progressing. You're getting somewhere. And everything is leading you towards like a more harmonious way of being with your horse. We have so many eyes watching us with so many opinions, and it can be difficult sometimes to know who to listen to, whether it's yourself, whether it's other voices. And so it can be very conflicting, and there's a lot of pressure because of that too. We always try and be as like honest and candid as possible. We feel like that's the best thing we can do, because I mean, we've also been doing it for so many years. You can only do it for so long and fake it. Like, you just can't. It's very tiring, I think, if you would. So I think we've found our own little thing that works for us, but it does put a lot of pressure, because yes, also he has to do shows. And if someone pays him, they want a good show, of course. And he does Liberty riding. And the whole thing about Liberty riding is the horse gets to say yes or no. And so the difference with yes shows is that you see that sometimes the horse says no. But the whole point of Liberty is that that's okay. And so in his shows, he really embraces that. When the horse is ready to come back and engage and play, he does. And I know other people that do shows where the horse isn't allowed to say no, and the show might be perfect, but then the playfulness might not be there. So I think that's really what we want out of it, is we want to like keep that playfulness. I think I've learned now from the last couple of years that what I really want out of horses is like that pure joy and happiness I had as a child. Like when I very first began, like that itching feeling where you like open your eyes and you know you're going to the riding school and you already have like these like nervous butterflies and you just can't wait to be there. You love the brushing, you love the cleaning of the feet, the being in the stables, getting on, the washing, hand grazing, putting them back in the field, sometimes just sitting in the field, enjoying them. I think that pure child happiness and passion is like what I thrive for. And I think that's what's led me to the PREs. That's what's led me to not being like super competitive with my riding, but just doing it when I feel like it. I just want to wake up every day, have a good relationship with my horses, and feel this connection with them. And that's what Emporio taught me. But of course, that's not that easy to do. And I think that's what TRT can help me with, is especially because I try as a rider to be as soft and understanding as possible. And that's a journey I've been on for many years, but that's a journey I want to continue to be on because I want to do more with less. And I think that's where Tristan and TRT can really help me on. And I think that's because that's what I found my window and my entrance with Emporio, that he wanted to work. He wanted to do everything with me. It didn't matter what we did. It didn't matter if we did a photo shoot, if we were going out doing a public clinic, if I was doing a trail ride. He wanted it. Like, he was excited about it. And that means we never had a fight. And it was the first horse I ever had that gave me this. And then I was like, how am I ever, because I kind of like fluked it, actually. It just happened. We just had this connection. But I was like, how am I ever going to have this again? And I want to have it again. And I want to have it with all my horses. And so that's why I want to invest time and learn myself through TRT. Okay, this is, I think, how I'm going to get there again. This is how I'm going to find that space. And Emporio was 1 in a million, of course. But there's going to be other horses in my life. And I do want to have that feeling again.